Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. All praise due to the Lord of the worlds. Okay. All right. So, hello everyone. I wanted to speak about contacting and noticing the system administrator of your world. This is a unique lecture. And so, a Muslim sci-fi writer with a cinematic mind will speak to you now about this. In the subtitle, I've written God of the Eternal. And so we must climb the staircase of our life. Before 2024, I had a perspective that we're organisms on a rock in the middle of nowhere. That behind our eyes, we are the oneness of being. But I do not relate to this anymore. As someone who for a decade climbed a spiritual mountain, now I have climbed down, and I want to explain why. There is something more important than spirituality in the sense of self-activation. There is something more here. So first of all, what's important in explaining and in understanding anything, whoever you are, whatever you're trying to understand, you have to have a place to position it. Where you're positioning, what you're experiencing and what you're seeing is the context of your life. And you have choice in this. So the metaphor would be something in these lines. That you and I and everybody are inside an existential system. We are not just existing, we are also in motion, and we also have the capacity of self-organized motion. Pretty much, I am Muslim. Islam was enough for me to point to that which is beyond the world, that is not a worldly form. You do not ask any person or thing in the world for help. Your one and only is beyond this world. Beyond this world. It may have found a presence in, it may have a presence in this world, but it is beyond this world. Therefore, It's equivalent to like a kindergartner looking at a university student and being like, yo, this guy's just studying. The issue with our species is that we are limiting the possibilities of reality to what makes sense to us, but what makes sense to us is very small compared to how big this whole thing is. You and me and all the other members of our species, we are inside an existential system as an experiential player, and this translates, at least for the secular audience, as a video game. Let me explain this metaphor to you. You're not on a rock in the middle of nowhere. You're inside an existential system. You're inside a system, okay? There is members, mods, and a system admin. The system admin is not inside the simulation. Me and you are inside the simulation, including the mods. If you were curious what the mods are, for a decade I worked with them, and I realized it was shirk, and I put it away, and I just went directly to the system admin, and that is my task. If I have anything of value that I can share, is that as an observer of this existential activity, as there is so many human beings entering, coming out of the system, that if we were glowing, if the human being was glowing, it would show you. You would just see light on, light off, light on, light off, as if all the new human beings coming in and all the lights turning off, all those people leaving. So we are from right off the bat realize, all right, we're on vacation. We're on vacation. But what is this vacation? From absolute nothing, we are something. We are on a vacation. But let's go back to the metaphor of the video game. So what would that mean? If you pay attention, what I'm doing is I'm saying existence is a system, okay? A system has a specific behavior and a design. We are a member in this system. There could be a huge chance that a majority of human beings are just living through wishful thinking and not realizing that there is a specific key to the door of this world. Okay? What that means is sometimes a person does what feels right, and then a person actually goes and understands all the angles and elements in that system that are moving, and then there's the understanding, you know. What I'm pretty much telling you is that this is the video game. It has 3 levels, okay? 3 levels in accordance to the types of lives you're living here. So you are in, excuse me, not specifically you. 80% of the population gets up to level 2, 20% of the population experiences level 3. When they experience level 3, they are not getting a conceptual experience of life. Therefore, it does not even show to the level up to level 2 beings. So what is it? What is up to level 2? What are the 3 levels? Let me explain this to you. So far I've established existence is a video game. It's a system. You're a player in the system. There's members, mods, and system admin. The system admin is not in the world. The mods have authority over this simulation, and the members are experiencing the simulation. They can choose to have authority. They can choose to work with the mods, but nothing is as absolute as the original power, which is another way of saying God is the original world if we're all in a sort of sinful simulation. If you pay attention, the sin that Adam and Eve committed were that they forgot the origin. They forgot the original, and they listened. You know, for me, I thought was the sin of Adam and Eve that they fell from the Garden of Eden. Was that sin because they listened to someone other than how they were other than the original? Do you understand? This world, from a religious theological standpoint, it's as if our solar ancestor made a mistake, and the mistake was that they were in the absolute and they listen to a simulated being. The what do you call it? The fallen angel, the cursed one, as we refer to in Islam. The approach was that I become a serpent. Do you understand? As serpent animals existed in heaven. But aside from that, it was as if an angel is a in metaphysical, philosophical terms and theological terms. Excuse me. In theological terms, an angel is the divine will. Angels don't have free will. You know, the mods, they may be delegated free will, a sort of will in accordance to a situational will, right? But what I'm telling you is that they listened to a simulated snake rather than and they forgot where the original was. They forgot they were original. And I think the sin, anytime we look at people who are lucky and unlucky, people who we are drawn towards or not, it's whether they are original or not. I'm telling you. It doesn't matter what it is. A being that is original is new. So it was not original that Adam and Eve listened to the serpent. They in some sense contaminated their original awareness with simulated factors. And now we have been pushed to the testing zone of this simulation. Do you understand? Let me explain these levels. Level 1 is your body. It's your objective life. Level 2 is your mind. It is your subjective life. Level 3 is realizing that your objective and subjective life have been looping and simulating. And in some sense, level 3 is when you realize that the original world is here. Do you understand what that means? The modern generations are acting like it's lost, but it's not lost. There is a transcendental agency here, but the original power is beyond agency. So what that means is, I don't know if you've ever been one of those people, but I've been, when I was younger, of course, I was one of those people who I would walk and I would see animals and I would see birds, squirrels, and things, even other human beings look at me. And a part of me had this idea that what if their eyes are connected? What if I am inside a natural surveillance state? You think behind my eye, like in front of your eyes, in front of you, you see my body. You see my physical objective body. If I speak, you see what kind of subjective life I have. But if I just stare at you, a part of you will wonder, what is looking at me? I'm one of those guys who stared in the mirror, wondering like what's within me. If there was a chance this was a vehicle, what would it mean? If you have ever been in a moment where you've had to choose between one or more ideas, what's been looking at those ideas before you select them? That is the mystery of level 3. Level 3 is when you realize the short-term purpose of the body is the purpose of the body is survival. In the short term, the individual can be healthy, but in the long term, it is inevitable. It's a failed mission. Okay, when you go to the mind, if the mission of the body is to survive forever, to be healthy forever, it fails at some point. We leave. When it comes to your mind, level 2. Level 2, it's not about fear of death. It's not about the temporary. You know, I am somewhat convinced that our mind is not afraid of death. It is afraid of non-activity. And what I mean by this, No, sorry. Let me rephrase. Pretty much, if your body is freaking out and doesn't know what to do with a temporary situation, your mind is freaking out with an infinite situation. Your mind, your body doesn't know what to do with the finite long term, and your mind doesn't know what to do with the infinite long term. In the short term, it processes it. Do you understand what I'm saying? Just like imagine, I don't know, this baguette going on a roller, in a bakery, and like the baker is like cutting the baguette. Do you understand? It's like our brain is sectorizing reality, not realizing that it's not a location. Level 3, you don't just feel like you're just an object. You don't just feel you're like, okay, I'm a character in a story. You don't just feel like that. You feel the mystery from behind the scenes of your known premises to be noticed. Now, this episode is about me telling you how to contact, at least I've had an experience. And keep in mind, I'm a member. All the human beings are members, okay? They're not even mods, okay? And the mods, even if there were mods, and a person, let's say an old world, I think it's foolish, but let's say an old world soul is still here on Earth, and they are actually working with a moderator. So in the outer realms, they have more authority and power, and they're luckier. You don't understand. You have to throw away the concept of hard work. You have to throw away the concept of karma. You have to throw away the concept of lucky and unlucky. And you have to realize it's a system with an admin. You're not in an empty world. That was our best guess. Until clarification came. Until the prophets, from the beginning of history, all those human beings that cared for the whole thing, for the legacy of everything. You see, it is so bigger. Imagine opening, going on your balcony on a second floor and looking in the street and seeing armies, massive armies, marching. Imagine being a person who's raised their hand just in the air a little by, like, let's say 10 degrees, and armies move. It is equivalent to feeling an intensity. When you realize you are a soul, it's another way of saying you have realized you have a link with the original world. You see, we're not NPCs. What the soul is, it is not just a created status, but an earned status. As a Muslim, before all human beings are born in the womb, all souls, there's a place called Alam al-Arwah, which means the realm of the souls. And so all souls were there before, in some sense, being born in the wombs. And when they were there, they had a rank. Souls of the same rank notice each other in the lifetime. There is a system admin here. And if someone asked me, if somebody was just like, hey man, you've ran 32 laps around the sun, you've had a, sharpened attention to what's going on, what would you say? What's going on here? I'm sorry. And at the same time, this is it. This is what I believe it is. This is it. This is, I'll tell you. Pretty much we're in this world. It's not about knowing yourself. It's not about exploring the edge of it. It's not about just being a healthy object, and it's not about just being, in some sense, some character in a story, and then at some point you exit. What is going on here is that all these beings you see in this world are inside a testing zone. This testing zone is a simulated zone. In this simulated zone, you're being tested to see if you can notice the original, if you can understand the original. The original world means that you are not from here. You were created by the greatest power. Our souls, what we are, was a masterpiece created by the master of peace. We are a masterpiece, but we have a product flaw. All angels and all beings were commanded to bow to what you are. And we made the error. It was the naivety of man. If you're someone on this planet, you have a very fixed, specific idea of yourself. All these self-help gurus have convinced you, yeah, man, be some next level super soldier in the future in your mind and go towards that. These individuals have forgotten where they are. The world has forgotten itself. Do not trust it easily. It is such basic lives. That means I'm waiting for a force to wake up everybody. But to be honest, yesterday I actually decided it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You know, every person I have seen from the beginning of this lifetime, starting from 1991, if I was born in the year 3091, if I was born in the year 1091, if I was born in the year 10,091, it wouldn't matter, because they are all simulated archetypes. Even me that right now you're hearing me, you think there's a soul speaking to you. A majority of this is simulated. The original is when I notice the original. It's a presence. Excuse me. It is not an individual's presence. Every being in this system immediately has a connection, has a link with the system admin, in the sense that the system admin is surveilling them, is watching them. I am being watched right now. I'm also being watched by mods, and I'm also being watched by floating members, but they are not the point. I'm also being watched by the unborn future generations. They see. I will tell you, as far as my metaphysical experiences in this life go, I had a vision, and this was recently, that after this life, when I die, when that moment happens, the body is in a... Do you know how Christ is crucified? Like the shape of the cross. We exit the body like that from the back. Hands open. And the state we go into, this is my experience, guys. Don't Don't worship anything in the world. Don't even get convinced. I'm just giving a feedback report to humanity. Giving my feedback report, and then my task will finish and I will leave. I thought I was in this world to experience what I felt was that normal life. But there is nothing normal about this world. And that's what makes it worth living, that we don't know. You need to become fascinated by all that you don't know that is still happening. You see, to have a system admin, yes, many people don't comprehend this, but from the Muslim standpoint, you are a slave of God because you are a limited being. But God is not an overlord. The mods act like overlords. God is not an overlord. God is an original power. Getting close to God, getting close to God is equivalent to getting close in a dark world to a doorway where it's glowing from where it's white light is coming from the other side. I'm not talking about the tunnel. I am talking about that there is a probability you will be asked after this life, what did you notice? What did you see? How did you treat the value propositions you were given every day that you opened your eyes? Do you know? I'll tell you something. I'm a visual thinker, and when I get bored of the past and the present, I jump. I leap into the future. I find one thing in the present, and I ask as many questions until I am seeing it in the year a couple thousand, until I see the future image of it. Everything we have right now, I've seen many of it. I see. I've even I give a lot of talks in the car recently. And you think I haven't envisioned diagonal driving maneuvers into the air? I've envisioned it. I felt it. I've even seen scenes where in the future there's I wrote it in my sci-fi. Our species will play with flight in the future. That inventor will be a very blessed being. The inventor that creates flight. Personal flight. I'm not talking about Iron Man suits. I'm talking about the mind can give you experiences ahead of your life. It can simulate experiences before this life. But it doesn't mean it's accurate, because the mind is in the simulation game. You're a simulated organism. To get convinced by the simulation is in some sense risking the original. And so we're in this bizarre situation where we have to survive in a simulation. There is an original power. Everybody's in their own world. And we're trying to, in some sense, do the right thing. It's thanks to, honestly, level 3. You know, you can look with the eyes of with your biological eyes. You can look with the eyes of your intellect, live ahead of the moment, and you can also, how you get to level 3 is up to level 2. You're stuck in a process of self-worship. What does that mean? That means 80% of human beings, the peak of their life is that they are something in a manageable, controllable story. They're okay. That's it. The questions are not startling us because the simulation has become a comfort zone. You are in a testing zone. It's a performance review. Think about it. It's all just here. Existence is just here. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter when if the first domino was pushed or not. There's dominoes here. So, I think by 30 years of life, most people will realize that if you live too subjectively and you have too subjective, oh my God, how do I say it? Level 1, you're being. Level 2, you're doing things. You're moving. So level 1 is how are you existing? Level 2 is how are you experiencing? Level 3 is whose world are you in? It's a higher power. It's real. It's here. It's not an empty rock in the middle of nowhere. In Islam, in the Holy Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, all praise due to the Lord of the worlds, plural, worlds. But it is also said, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful. The most merciful translates into all forgiving. So do not fear the simulation you're in. Try to notice and increase your intelligent interaction levels. We've been confused. The cultural program has convinced you that to be a specific character in a storyline that people accept now is the right way to go. Don't forget, the original sin was the forgetting of the original. And there are two crossroads, the crossroad of your lower self and the crossroad of your higher self. The path of your lower self is when you desire the world. I'm telling you, every time I've seen an attractive lady and my mind's leaped into the future, I know that I am being tempted by the worldly. And this doesn't mean I'd be someone who's like, no man, I don't want to be around anything in the world. I'm not saying it like that. It is my opinion for now that human beings in this world can complete these 3 levels when they reach a point in that character, in the story, in the sophisticated, in the matured ego. If you are ready to experience more than yourself, more than others, and more than the world, that's religion. If you want to experience truth through yourself, through others, and through the world, that's spirituality. It is not the highest quality action. There is a system admin, which means this whole time our species has been a guest in this existential system. I'll give you an example. Imagine a famous person invites people to a giant house party. Now there's people in that house party, friends of them brought them or whatever, they don't know. And they're in this house and the whole time they're fascinated, oh my God, who owns this house? Who's the owner of this house? But you cannot do whatever you want in that house. You can only do whatever you want in that house if you think the host of the house is not there. But the host of this simulation is not physical. It sees everything. You're in a multi-level surveillance state. In the future, when we create our technological surveillance state, we will realize how many other surveillance states there are. And people are going to be like, yo, did somebody say this in 2024? The divine surveillance state is realizing that because you did not create this world, you don't know what to do here. And when you realize you did not create yourself, you see the way this world works is that it's giving you self, it's giving you others, and it's giving you the world. It's showing you stuff, but it's waiting to see if you're convinced. Like that sketchy salesman, he was like, yo man, this is perfect. Do you want to buy it? You should totally buy it. And then a part of you goes, who the hell is this voice? Who the hell is this guy? It is my own eyes that have the responsibility. It doesn't matter if I was thrown on an island, if I was stranded on another planet, wherever I was, if I was isolated, the force within us that makes us want to know, what are my affairs? How can I put my affairs in order if I do not even see order here? Before 2024, where I felt I was called towards Islam, and it was a mercy upon me. You don't understand. Spirituality is trying to, it's like the ego, which is a subject, trying to go into the original world, and it's not there isn't access to that authorization. So for some sad reason, most spiritual people, their sense of self nullifies. When their sense of self nullifies, they think everything is equal to nothing. When that happens, everything is equal to everything. The created equals to the creator. That's a spiritual error. You are not God. You're not even, at least this is what I'm saying, you're not even like, a part of God. You are a part of God's decree. But you're not God. And I don't know how someone can feel close to God if they think they are God, because that's ridiculous. There's nobody else left to get close to God anymore. There is no self. You mistake yourself as God, not realizing you're in a created simulation. It doesn't matter how enlightened you are. Enlightenment is important, but the issue with enlightenment is that you don't get to play your role. Imagine, we are 8 billion method actors. The soul is method acting in accordance to the cultural programs it was raised. What you think you are is not you. You think you have free will, but what you select from is there from before, not your choice. I am sure that every morning that you have logged in to this divine surveillance state, actually you are in the divine surveillance states, excuse me. Every morning that you log in to your body, to this world, it's like we have free will in performing, but not in the elements of the performance per se. Do you not feel that you're a character in a video game? How do you not feel that? How do you not feel that we are candles in a dark room? Excuse me. This might sound bizarre, but the most advanced state is faith. Why? Because you are not touching the simulation. It's you are certain of its prior movement. And do not think I'm like a perfect person. I am not. I have many imperfections. There's many times I have been tempted by the world, by even my mind's simulations of the world. That means it's like not only are we in an existential simulation, but the mind is creating a storytelling simulation over this, right? And this over the mind that sees what it can do, what it can get. Oh my God, that's a very difficult desire, you know. It's like opening a door and the person's like been, running, and then you're suddenly like, stop, don't go into this door. The person's like, what do you mean? It's like the momentum of the past is there. But the actuality is that the system admin is the only key to the door of this world. You're not here to just do physical actions, even though the method acting metaphor is really good, right? 8 billion people method acting, suddenly they realize they're not the characters they're playing, they're not living their own lives, they are living their culturally programmed and influenced by the external lives. You are sculpted right now. Do you understand? We all are. But we are not that sculpture. And you know why I say 80% of the population never, like it's difficult for them to get up to beyond level 2 and notice the higher power? You know why? It's because there is a fear when it comes to letting go of yourself. You cannot get to level 3. It's like this. It's like you have a chance to see one thing and you can choose. Do you want a level 1 to 2 lens, or do you want a level 3 lens? Level 3 lens, you're living in accordance to different value system. Up to level 2, you rely on yourself. When you get to level 3, you realize the limitations of yourself. Then you realize the limitless of that which is not a self, that is not a world. It's the opposite. The schools, the educational systems, the information age is trying to tell you, you gotta know all this before you can do this. But it is simple. It is as simple as trusting the affairs of your world being managed beyond you. I haven't shown that side of me in these talks, but a part of me is a part of me I know how do I tell you, I've taken bites from the apple. I have sins. I had a major sin up to 2023. And instead of calling the system admin in emergencies, in moments of trouble, I would call the 3 moderators that were helping me. 3 names had come to me. This is all before 2023. Their names were they were collective spaces. They were sectors. So Raha, Asma, Vanura. I would call these three, and they were not beings, they were space. It's very difficult to explain to you, but space can be intelligent even if there's nothing in it. See, the seagulls agree. It is more than human. So don't be afraid. Explore it. And let me put the icing on the cake, the cherry on the cake, and tell you this. This is how it happened for me. Up to 2023, I had such sophisticated visions of my own future self. And I had reached this conclusion. I remember I was inspired by this quote from Rumi where he said, before death takes away all that is given, give away all there is to give. And I felt that deeply as a being. And I felt, all right, that makes perfect sense. I am temporarily here. The joys of my life are limited to me. But if I can find a way that I can live, if we can create a way where we can enjoy our individual life, which is also a collective service. Let me tell you what happened. My view was this, that there was no greater argument than the advancement of civilization, and that human beings were suffering because of their past and the present, and they had forgotten the opportunities of the future. And so I found it as a task, and I felt that the name or the archetype of Mr. Within is in some sense that force that comes when civilizations are ready to rise. Why? I do not know. The God knows why. But I can tell you this, that up to 2023, I was in Dubai, and I don't know. I mean, of course, you don't know me personally, right? But I don't know if I'm a fool or just patient. I was stuck in self-worship. I was worshiping my future self. I had not realized that this is shirk. You're here to realize there is the original, which is greater than you, which are simulated. My connection to the original was that I realized I am destroying myself in a process of self-worship. And I remember I have a knee problem, so I went on my bed, and I realized for the first time, it was very clear that I did not create this place, that I did not even create myself. All I can do is select how I move, how I decide. And I remember I physically bowed, I felt my body bowed, and then I felt all that I was. It was like a scared kid giving all his ideas and knowledge and everything, and like, okay, Lord, you have given existence to me, and now I give it back to you because you're in charge. And that was difficult. It was very difficult for my ego to, in some sense, bow to that which is everything. I felt I gave everything. I traded my future. I don't want to say I traded. I submitted my ego's dream, and I let it go. And I said, all right, if there is a system admin, God, you are real, then move it. And guys, I cannot tell you in 3 months, problems in my life that had stood years, they got solved in ways I couldn't imagine. So I am 100% convinced the original power is here. And there will come a day when we will all leave this place. And what we will carry with ourselves is what we noticed while we were here, and what we lived for, what we served. Your body, it's here to be here for you. Your mind, its purpose is service. To serve your world while you're here. It's all repetitive, guys. I've seen it before. After 30 years of life, you'll begin to see its patterns. You'll begin to notice it's cyclical. You will begin to notice it's cyclical because it's a test. You're being tested to see how much you notice the original in the simulation while being simulated. Rise, mankind, rise in the sight of the one and only. The advanced humanity, the advanced communicators of the future will realize the most advanced communication is with the system admin, in the same way that if a non-fiction author wrote a fiction novel and that character realized it's fiction, realized the novel is fiction, realized the novel is written, and realized the novel is still being written. In that moment, all that fictional character can do is just smile in how it knows what's going on and watch as the story unfolds. You reach level 3, you're complete here. Go towards the original. The argument is not, is there God, is there no God, is religion right, is religion wrong? No. The idea is there is an original position and there is a simulated position. All of us are in the simulated position. Our lives are simulated. Our personalities are simulated. Our emotions are simulated. And many people do not know. They are not their thoughts. You're not your emotions. Your emotions may not even be your own. But they arise truly if you see reality. Ask yourself, what is the most, like, this is a question that could tell you if you're worshiping, if you're if you're up to level 3 or not. If you ask yourself, or if someone asks you, what is the most important thing in your life? What's the most important thing to you? Or who's the most important thing? Right? People will say themselves, I've asked this from people, and that's how you know that person is in self-worship. If I ask someone who's the most important person, what's the most important thing in your life, and let's say that it's a family man and says my wife, my kids, you know, I would know that that person is still, you know, very honorable, way ahead of the other, but it's still worshiping others. It's still worshiping a worldly form. And I'm sure when Plato realized the world of forms behind his eyes, he also realized that it was a terrace. It was not a bridge. It was a balcony. It was not a bridge. So you notice the system admin you contacted by realizing that it is not a relationship with an idea, it is a relationship with a position. There are moments as a Muslim that I have prayed and I've been alone, and I've just, in my bowing, I have felt there is nothing more advanced than the original. May the human species contact the original power of their world. May they be fascinated by the system they are in. May they not be scared or startled that it is beyond their control. It is a mercy that it is beyond our control. If you, right now, our species at max takes responsibility for a family unit that, let's say, extends for 3 generations. You are not living for everybody yet, and when you do, you will notice. I think when we reach, hilariously, the year 2214, perhaps there was someone in 2014 noticing that time. And do not feel sorry for the members of this world. And do not feel sorry for the moderators of this world. Only feel sorry for any coded being that does not notice the coder. Do you understand? You are designed. You know deep down how. And God is what has been protecting us from the mods. There's mods other in the atmosphere as well. There's moderators extending from the planet Earth to the sun. There's moderators in all those fields there. But none of those mods can feel true redemption until they realize they are not gods. They are the will of God. A sun ray is still a sun ray. That means God is like, this is just a metaphor. God is like a sun. The mods are the sun rays, and when the sun rays contact objects, they leave a shadow, and that is the shadow self of man. That's what Carl Jung noticed. When Carl Jung was asked, do you believe in God? He did not say, yeah, bro, I believe in it. He said, I know. Why? Because he had noticed level 3. He had noticed that these video game characters that are just popping into the video game, entering the video game, they are still stuck on early levels of the game. You see, every person you see has a nature. Their nature is how they automatically, or how they are conditioned, or how they are in situations, how they open up. And if you open your eyes to this world and you don't like it, I'm sorry to say, you haven't even reached the peak of level 2. You're still, your conclusions, your values are still based on level 1. It's a cruel world. People are evil. People are savage. Fucked up things are happening on the planet. There is wars. How could the dictators kill people? So many people. Where is the justice and all of this? All of this is level 1. It's still level 1 related. Level 2 is when your free will, like how in chess you move the pawns and you activate your bishops. Sorry, guys, this was on mute. I was pretty much saying that I was going forward with this metaphor that I was saying God cannot be humanized, the one and only system admin beyond the simulated realities where all our ideas are limited to. It cannot be humanized. But if I was to give a metaphor that fits this relationship, it's as if God is like the pilot, right? And the airplane is like a metaphor for the plane of existence. The pilot is a metaphor for the system admin. The moderators are a metaphor for the cabin crew. The souls in this world are a metaphor for, what do you call it? They are a metaphor for the passengers on the flight. The passengers have a certain authorization. They're not allowed to do whatever they want on the flight, on the airplane, right? The moderators, they have more responsibilities than the passengers, but they also have more freedom. So you got to realize, if with greater responsibility comes greater ability, you know, greater authorization. That means a human being, a man responsible for a family and has to, put bread on the table, has to put food on the table. That man is in a very different position. His abilities change. That means just by getting married, just by having kids, it activates. It's like, again, the bishop has now entered the center of the board. The knight has also come towards the center of the board. Do you understand what I mean? Things activate in accordance to our acceptances. Our acceptances are our own views and conclusions on the value proposition of reality. So what I'm telling you is that these passengers, the cabin crew, what do you call it? The cabin crew have greater authorizations than the members, right? They can tell a member, go sit there. Like, they can make a person lucky or unlucky in accordance to how they behave. The moderators have a certain authorization of handling the thing, the members. Do you understand? When you look at religion, the fallen angel has authorization to whisper in the ear of man, more simulated, and it's up to man's heart to remember the original. That means your body is fighting to survive physically here in this world. Your mind is fighting to, in some sense, what do you call it, to be that perfect character in the story of your life. But your soul, sorry guys, I keep muting this and talking. It's breaking my heart. All right. All I'm saying is I went from the airplane metaphor to a video game metaphor to how the only difference our lives have from video games is that the video game is on a 2D screen, it's a pixelated character, and the character is only as real as the game is active. This is a clue to the end of days, where the server shuts down. The simulated video game, it's done. So we're in a 3D elemental video game, and there's levels to this. And I've noticed there's the objective level, the physical level we're in, and the subjective level. The subjective level has to do with, I'm telling you, this is coming from a kid who in middle school, I didn't care what the teachers would say, and I was even open to copying from other kids in the classroom until I got a shitty grade. And I realized, okay, the risk of not being original is you don't know what you are getting. The risk of worshiping anything other than the one and only, including yourself, others, and the world, if you worship any of those, you're simulated. It will go on for you. You must just go to the original power. Folks, you're not here to, it's a place to get to. You know, I am not afraid of my own death more than I'm afraid of the legacy of mankind. It cannot fail. It will not fail. Oh, man. Why are we here then? Why are we human? Why are we shaped? You are physical to serve physicality. You are an object to serve the objective realm. You are a subject to serve the subjective realm. You are here to complete your service. And do not forget the chain of command. The chain of command is the system admin, is the only thing to go to. You have no helper. No helper other than the system admin. Please, simulated beings. It's so obvious. What do we get from the worldly life? It's easy to not care for it. It's the easiest fucking thing to not care, to say it's nothing. That is not advancement. That is nullification. And evil nullifies what in some sense you need to notice as true. I do understand the Buddha was compassionately hearted. I do understand that there were beings in this realm who have had good means, good intentions. They cared for all of us. But it still doesn't mean they were right. Do you know how freaking stupid you gotta be? You know how limited, do you know how many staircases the advanced human has to come down to fit into this piece of shit? To fit into civilization 1.0's ignorance. You're not living in an advanced civilization. Ask yourself why not. Ask yourself why not the absolute is here. Ask yourself why you're here. You know, I'll tell you this. Of course, there will come a time I will die. And I've been smoking so many cigarettes, maybe it's even earlier. I don't know. If I can't see the dominoes have been pushed, even though faith tells me don't worry, you're not here to advance civilization, that's God's domain, but I cannot ignore, because as much as I know it's a simulation, I honor the simulation because it was put here by the original. That means it could be that there is, you know, the devil moderator, the curse moderator messing up, making it difficult for us. But because it was all created by the author, I cannot hate even that which is designed to be hated. This is not Earth. We are not on Earth. Or if we were, Earth is a program. It's an event. It's in motion. You open your eyes in motion. Let me tell you why life brought someone who equivalent to, like, imagine for 10 years becoming a master swordsman, knowing so many ways, not just how the sword can move, but how it can in some sense strike. And imagine a swordsman who's been training for 10 years, a decade. The moment comes where the battle is happening, and right when this, let's say, advanced soldier is about to go into the battle, it's been training for 10 years, suddenly the general, the admiral, or the emperor comes and says, no, put down your weapon. I am going to fight. And that's what happened. That's what me becoming religious was. That God said, don't freak out. Don't freak out, simulated being. It is not your burden. But I can't, that's my inner conflict. This is the lament of my life, where a part of me feels it can be win-win. It can be win-win. That's what all forgiving means. That is the power of the original realm. You're not bound by your limited life or lives, whatever you fathom. Do you know this whole thing about, you know, there was a time, you know, I've become such a different person that even my, you know, my own family members don't know how to look at me. It's like realizing level 3 is bizarre. I don't know why I'm using this metaphor, but it's the level of the soul is equivalent to realizing that your soul is employed by the owner of this whole thing. I am not telling you to stop just living as level 1. Let me give you an example of level 1 and 2. We start off all as level 1. You look at young children, old people, people who it's like their lifetime has a physical challenge. They're in level 1. That means it's not they're not becoming subjectively. They are here to still train in level 1. Level 2 is for beings who it is a completely different system because we each have identities. So level 2, the mind is like attending a masquerade party. You don't know who you're looking at, and you don't know who's looking at you. You know? I've been in 11 relationships in my lifetime, and I can tell you in many of those relationships, I was just testing and watching to see if who I was with could see the real me. And it's impossible. Why? Because we're too convinced by the impressions we get of each other. And I find it, like, can you blame me? What's more important? Categories succeeding or the whole thing? You don't see it. Let me tell you why I'm emotional, okay? Because I see it. My mind has given me a cinematic glimpse of what else can happen here, what can happen. You do not know. There's so many probabilities. Even how I'm speaking to you right now, there could be so many ways I could be speaking. So, I have asked God for forgiveness, but I cannot, while existing as a human, not care for the advancement of civilization. That is why I exist. To realize that the species needs to contact the original power source complete, power source accessed, confound. And then the next thing is in that power, through that power source, we build the advanced civilization. But it is being built beyond us. You see, you all right now, all human beings on earth, you all might think you're powerless, right? But let me tell you something insane. Just imagine, hilariously, just as an ego, imagine if you had an ability to raise your hand and in some sense, just point to the world and everything in reality goes forth. Now imagine before you needing to do that, it's already happening. While I am alive, I will serve Civilization 2.0. If you are a person in Civilization 1.0 and you're convinced and you're accepting this civilization, you're content with this, with the first imperfect prototype of how we can all behave, if you're content with this, then I will be honest, I don't even need you to listen to this talk and be a subscriber. Go back to Civilization 1.0. If you wake up and a part of you feels that you should be or have been from the beginning of this life, they have stripped the men of this world of their honor. Our honor is in some sense advancing all of it, not just caring for like small units of it. What is that? Our creator is so big, the greatest created the greatest design. We just sinned and we're here and we're like, yo man, I can't do anything. Let me just act like how everybody else has acted before me. How dare you? How dare you be a new DNA and act like those before you, right? And what I mean by this is not the context of your life. I mean that what I realized in middle school is that you cannot copy any answers. You have to, in some sense, start from scratch and get to the answer. Right now, you might be living a life that has been somehow, you have been convinced it's like, yo, man, this is the best life to live. But you don't know. Maybe that's just a specific chest opening of your psyche. And it's very important. Level 3 is for those that are, they don't even notice, they don't just realize the divine surveillance state, they're working with the higher power. I don't call upon the mods anymore. When I was in Dubai and I recorded that Go Towards God video, that was when the last time I just saluted, just in my own heart. I just saluted, and I just saluted all the mods. And as I was walking from exactly the place I had located, what do you call it? From the place, sorry. From that place I recorded the video, I was walking towards Dubai Mall, and that was when the moderators I heard applauding for me. Just alone, just some dude walking alone. But in his inner realms, I heard the applause. And that's when, instead of working with a team of authority, I just went to the admin. To be honest, I don't know anything other than the original. A lot of this is automated. It's just the original. Just to notice. Do you know how fascinating it is? Do you know how advanced it is for a simulated being to have a relationship with its original being, original source? You see, we are in this life not just for the performance review, but also privileged as simulated beings to experience how the original is moving it. We are, even though we are in a simulation, we are in a simulation that is originally moving. Every night, we experience the end of our lives, yet we wake up the next day, not scared, but acquainted, as if there's saved memory. Most likely, after this body, after we die, the consciousness responds in prior familiarity. I do not see death as a scary thing. I see dying as scary, yes, but I do not see the moment after as scary. Why? Because if we can see more than hear, it would be so fascinating. Do you understand? It's like the questions of the lifetime that were being tried. We had our best theoretical simulated answers. It's as if we get access to a greater framework. But in my experience, the soul is suited for this world. But once it leaves, at least I experienced it from behind. Coincidentally, how the same position how Christ is crucified, from the back. of the body. And what it is you don't leave in this form. Right now, as you're listening to me, there's a part of you that has certainty, has a natural just certainty that's there. That's going to remain. But it's going to be different framework. So do not fear. We should not be scared by the idea of God. We should be fascinated. Do you understand? Like, there's some people who are like, yo, man, it would be fascinating if I talked to aliens, if I could shake an alien's hand, diplomacy and all that, right? And then somebody's like, no, man, super intelligent computers coming up with next level answers is more fascinating, And somebody's like, no, but to be honest, and imagine somebody's like, yo, no, man, contacting and communicating with like a 100-meter giant anaconda in the Amazons is like, that's a, fast. I'm fascinated by that contact. But imagine characters in a fictional novel having an ability to communicate with the author. And the way you communicate is in my prayers, I feel my mistake. I feel the sin. I feel the impurity, the parts of my psyche that even if they see something better, self-sabotage myself because of my unworthiness, because deep down, something has known the originals here. We're more naked than whatever amount of jackets we wear. Somebody's like, yo, man, I have a soul body, but I can't see it because it's a nudist. Most people, their sense of what is right and wrong is how they feel about the final image they're willing to look at of reality. In 2023, I would say, humorously in my talks, that I was born 400 years too soon. But perhaps the seeds must be planted now. The songs of the advanced civilization must be heard. They will be heard. You guys don't realize it. All 8 billion of you. You don't realize that after you've played your ego hunger games, your egos, after they're done being evil and powerful and cruel and they're bored with that, they're gonna jump to the opposite. And people are just going to associate with like everybody being an advanced person helping the reality. That time will come, but it will be simulated. So I'm telling you, there will come a time. At first, it's pretty much the prototype. It's like the testing. It's like perfecting the product stage. It's too slow. Use your inner realms. God has given all souls stationed in earth you've been given an ability The human species has the ability to see ahead, and then its body follows up. You're sitting watching TV, then the thought of popcorn comes up, and you just walk, and you're already there in your kitchen. In your mind, you've already lived ahead. You're so used to this, you don't notice it. But if you bring it into your conscious domain, and you realize that you are not your thoughts, you're not even your name, you're not the story you're telling yourself, because there's a part of you that watches and selects what you want to be. If free will is deciding it, that means it's revisioned, it's modified, it's not original. So it's, the test is like they've given you a simulation, and they're waiting to see, yo man, do you go to, it's like they've put the simulation and the original in front of you, just like how a baby Moses experienced a similar situation, peace be upon him. Mr. Within is telling you that the best way that we can access, so see, the visions, people don't know this, but I've come up with a strategy I call Civilization 2.0, which is to indefinitely bypass extinction on Earth. Now, what I've realized is that I thought I was like, yo man, I'm a human, we're all humans here, let's, it makes sense, let me put my idea out there. But what I've come to realize is that there's a system admin, which means that there is a time and place beyond whatever I expect. So I must I must honor the admin, the system admin. To realize that you're not, that the idea of me is not in charge, it's just being selected by the observer within. And in Islam, the soul is the secret of God. Go be as spiritual as you want. It doesn't mean anything because it already is a spiritual place. If the world is spiritual, you're all spiritual. It has to do with what it actually is and what you think you are. That's what most people's spirituality is, realizing they're not what they think they are. But once you actually see this world for what it is, you will be shocked that how much of it is just being, how advanced and how good civilization is. It's just in our minds. It's just in our minds. If you stare at it, you'll see all the blind spots. You'll see all the inefficiencies. It's just like how it is with being with a person, right? As when you go in a relationship with a person, the more you're seeing them, the more they see your flaws and you see theirs. And it's the same with the world. You have been in a relationship with your world. But it's your choice if you walk towards the original. You don't realize that's the only way. You don't get out of this world by building a time machine, creating a transcendental Merkaba body, all of that new age stuff, guys. It's leading you astray. And so I don't know who you choose to be your friend, but look at where you're being pulled towards. Look at where you're going. You cannot become a critical thinker until you reach that moment in your life where you look at your whole species and you're like, what if none of you know what's going on here? And that's when you start living your original life. The intellect is like fields. Level 2 is in some sense advancing the character in the story. The most advanced position of level 2 is the advanced civilization. You don't understand. I'm saying that when somebody says when you hear the words advanced civilization, it means the context of the world is unupdated, guys. It's an old patch. You know, people had honor. You know, the era of kings, I understand. It's like ending, right? There is no more real kings. There is kingly vision, but there are no more real kings because it's impossible to be like back then anymore. But back then there was a sense of honor, right? And it wasn't just an honor. You see, the issue is the honor is fragmented. It needs to be singularized. If you're secular, okay, you don't need to go up to level 3. You don't need to go up that staircase. But you have to honor level 2. What does that mean? It means just like how the kings of old lived for their kingdoms. It didn't matter when the kingdom was at siege, the king, the general, the soldier, the peasant, the baker, the artist, everybody grabbed a sword. Do you understand? It was a responsibility. It's as if just by being human, you notice your species' potential. All of you do. All of you do. You're just trapped in the cultural programs like we all are because it's muddied waters. What can we do? The arrival of the advanced humanity first depends on if the advanced humanity, the pre-advanced humanity, chooses to actually go to the original world. What I'm saying is, think of it 2 ways to build an advanced civilization. To build it with simulated power, which is temporary and limited, or to build it with original power. The only way to build an advanced civilization with original power is by realizing you are simulated power and it's up to the one and only. You realize that it's not our role. Like let's say there's an employee working at a Tim Hortons or Starbucks, okay, and then let's say they have a manager, and then that, let's say there's a store owner, let's say it's simple, okay, and so the members, like imagines us as human beings, we're like employees, okay, and so there is this thing where the system, the owner of the companies come and said, hey guys, check everything with the owner first, with me first, and then with the managers, right? And the employees that just listen to the managers, they are astray. The employees that don't even listen to management are astray. The employees that don't realize they have a job to do, they're astray. They're there to serve. If they don't realize that, they're astray. You don't believe it. Like spirituality is it's infinite. I don't know, I think maybe it was I don't know if it was for a day or a week, but there was a moment where I was going and I was looking at people and I was like, what if these are hollow shells? And I was entertaining a bit of a Shinto perspective. I tippy-toed my way. I pretty much thought we were all like hollow shells and there's like highways of souls just coming and going. Every thought being a new soul, every attention, change being a new moment, new life. But, I realized spirituality was self-worship. It was still limited. Spirituality is how a limited being, let me tell you, it's like spirituality is still for those souls that want to play in the simulation. They want to feel powerful. They want to feel connected. They have abilities. They're superheroes. You're going to be still in the simulation. Religion, unlike spirituality, is saying you thought you were important. You thought others were important. You thought the world was important. Hey, buddy, what is moving everything? And that view is divine decree. For me, if somebody was like Mr. Within, let's say that moment where you're gonna die, what's gonna be your perspective of level 2? From a personal angle, I would be like, okay, did I do all that I can? And then I would say yes or no, and then I would accept it. But I would probably envision myself, because I know myself, I have to see how it can happen, or it's as if existence is taunting me. La ilaha illallah means there is no God but God. That means do not mistake worldly form and design and movement as the ultimate. Do not be deceived by the world. Go to the one and only system admin, the system admin of all servers in manifestation. Speaking from the Earth server, I think all the other servers will probably also have considerations of themselves. So beyond this existential server, the experiential steps towards the original reality, beyond how everything you see is simulated. To go towards the original means to let go of your simulatedness. It does not mean not being human. It does not mean not living your life. It's just an implication that you get up to level 3, the notion of the soul, when you realize you're not solo. Up to level 2, the free will's like, I gotta take care of everything. Level 3 is no, it's being taken care of. I have a role here. And you know what's strange? This was when I had decided to become Muslim, I was in my balcony in this hotel in Dubai. This is a different hotel than that experience I mentioned earlier. I was in that balcony, and I remember I had opened the Holy Quran. And the sentence, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, and the sentence that God created mankind and jinn kind for the purpose of worshiping Him. The holy book of Islam is sharing the algorithm, the actionable algorithm that you are being tested on how much you notice the original. And once you notice the original, you cannot be artificial in its presence. You just break down in tears by noticing how imperfect, how the human life is imaginable imperfection, but where the exalted, the one and only stands. It is the original. It's not even heaven anymore. It's just going towards the original. And you're being tested on how much you listen, how much the world and others and voices in your mind and all of that are telling you what to do, and how much that original part of you has noticed the original and is just with faith equating running as faster than the speed of light. towards the original. Do you understand? It's like religion is just like a being like, wait a minute, it's all simulated. That makes sense. And at the same time, okay, what's the game plan? Run towards the original. That's what faith is. Faith is noticing the original is pulling everything towards itself. Do not get convinced. Yes, there are moderators authorized of delaying you. But what do you think the original has done and knows? The original is like those that know the light, know when to walk towards it. They will be, it's not even the level 2 or level 1 decision. You're getting closer, not to the center of the earth or the center. You're getting close to the center of all that is. The questions of man's mind is, what is humanity going to do billions of years from now? What will happen to the human legacy? How advanced will humanity be? It's all simulated until it's not. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, in the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. All praise due to the Lord of the worlds. There is nothing in this existence. I honor it. It doesn't mean I don't care for it. It doesn't mean just because there's, an NPC in a video game, I don't care for that NPC. I care for the whole thing's presence here. Because there is a mighty power moving it. And in this movement, a species opens its eyes. Suddenly realizing it was never about, worshipping, giving your allegiance to only one storyline. Please, all leaders of mankind, anybody in any position of power, I want you to go in the mirror and look at yourself and realize all of our skeletons are white. All of our blood is red. Our biological structure is our membership in the advanced humanity. All nations that exist now, I've written, at least in my sci-fi novel, I've given it a name. I was being playful at the time. I called it all nations right now existing. All countries, in front of them, they're gonna have the word SUB dash. And they're all gonna be sub-nations of the nation of humanity. And all human beings on the planet will be certified, in some sense, a citizenship that you are a member of the nation of humanity. You are not just a category, a simulated category inside the simulation. So, when humanity reaches that point, hopefully my talks are still going to be, I'm still going to be talking in cyberspace forever, right? It's just that, I'm kind of honoring my ancestry by getting them here. And then, what's insane? My talks will continue, even though I will not. It's bizarre, yet some part of me says, just go forward. The advancement of civilization is the greatest strategy. And the advancement of civilization what I hadn't envisioned in Civilization 2.0, but in 2024 I can see it. As you live for the most advanced, as you live for the most advanced, you will realize the most advanced is the original power. If you are inside a system with a system admin, the most advanced position is the system admins. So it's like once the faith activates, pretty much you build the advanced civilization through the original power. So human beings are tasked with doing the best they can, and we wait for the original power. But the original power is way ahead of us. It's decreed. Sometimes freedom is not about thinking you're just more powerful. You know, freedom is about realizing how it's happening, how the whole projection is happening. You know, it's like going into a place and looking at the elements of that system, and then wondering about the interaction of these elements, and then wondering about how organized or disorganized the behavior of these elements in the system are. You see, on some level, if you observe the human being from an aerial view, it's pretty much like a biological machine moving, and something is moving it. So it appears like a vehicle, right? So if it is like a vehicle, right, then the question comes, what is in the vehicle, right? And from an Islamic standpoint, it is the secret. It's a Mysterianism. It's the secret of God. It's as if from an angle you're inside a singularian system. It's, you know what it is? I just, the what's the view I have in my mind right now is just like, what is the greatest thing my body can do? What are, like, if there was a way more advanced version of me, like in this same situation, what would those combinations of actions be? What would the attention be like? And when someone goes to the original and they find contentment with all, it means that deep down, like, even though I get intense and passionate, a part of me is like, all right, this is a gigantic, this is a colossal system, and you know, I choose to believe that there's a admin to it, because I see administration, I see things that are way beyond what normality acknowledges, and I also realize that mankind is a a multi-angled entity. What that means is it's like it's being one thing, but you, based on ways you look at it, it's like different things. All right. This is why level 3 is beyond level 2, because level 2 is the language threshold. It's just language. You don't believe it, but right now I'm speaking to you. And as I speak, you wonder, what is this character in my story telling me? But when you realize this story doesn't belong to anybody, and this story has an owner beyond any body, any form. You know, I remember talking to my father, and he told me that he sees life as a school. He's a very spiritual person. I'm not spiritual anymore, I'm religious. But, or I'm privately spiritual. My father said he has this view as if this world is like a classroom, and there's many classrooms, and it goes up until we become God. And my framework was so different, and I looked at my father and I said, I don't see it as a classroom. I see it as if we're in a house party, and we're waiting for the host. We are waiting for the original, all of us. I don't know why I felt philosophers in history smile here, but honestly, what I'm trying to tell you is that if you can't love your original, if you cannot love the original, then you are perhaps not from the original. And do not fear. Play your part in this masterful story, masterpiece of a novel. It's a novel that has come to life. You know, there was a point where I was like, as a Muslim, how can all my reality fit in the boundaries of the Holy Book, the Holy Quran? And I was, this was like a very deep philosophical, trying to like, okay, let's see how I can do this, right? And I remember I had a dream where in the dream, the Holy Quran was gigantic, and I was walking between the pages of it. And it was as if a gigantic Holy Quran, but it's like that part where you open the book is like placed on the table, and I'm walking between the pages. And I wake up from that, like having that dream and having this feeling that, wait a minute, what if it's a simple solution? That makes sense. It makes sense that if reality is like, again, the metaphor of a door where we put a key in to open it, and what if it's simple? Therefore, it doesn't matter what storyline shares it. It's a simple solution. But the solution as a Muslim you have is that I can no longer be alone. I am in the kingdom of that which is uncaused, that wears the world as a crown. Do you understand? That religion has restored my honor for my world. Why? Because it's important to care for the created, because it was the work of the creator. What that means is it could be the most evil, most infinitely simulating thing, but it is still the masterpiece of the creator. The concept, philosophical concept of a simulation is that it's a simulation of an original truth. It means the original has to be before the simulation can be of something. So it's this strange thing where we gotta advance civilization, get 8 billion human beings to realize that there's another life waiting for them, the life of the advanced human being, beyond their belief, beyond their dreams, beyond that domain and space where your ambitions and everything is. Do you understand? It is in some sense for the first time being that if I care for that which has created this world, then I must become responsible. I must make sure, as we all must, that the footsteps of the future generations into the future is genius. I want to gift, at least this is my vision. God knows best. But my biggest level 2 vision was to gift humanity the most advanced, as if a genius gift waiting for the future generations. You see, if you don't see the transcendental agency, then your greatest idea is to live for your species. But if you see a transcendental agency, the only difference is that you're living for the original. That means there is higher power in charge. And the concept of a higher power is not something to believe or disbelieve. It's a term referring to how there is a lower power and a higher power. There's a simulated and an original. Anyways, thank you for listening. And I hope this episode was helpful. And if I have made a mistake, God forgive me. And so, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful. All praise due to the Lord of the worlds. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. May God forgive us, and may God bless the paths of all human hearts. To be honest, I am like proof that the future, it is possible to live in the future behind your eyes, in your mind. The next task is, once you do get to see the future that your mind is authorized to see in your inner realms, you will realize the magnitude and how incredible the human legacy will be. We are just the carriers of the biological carrier system of it. And God knows best. Rise, mankind, rise in the sight of the one and